So, welcome back. It's only been a couple minutes for me. I might wait a couple days before I load part 2 up. But a friend told me over Christmas that somebody was asking about my hands shaking. And I said, yeah, I've always had, from my mother's side, we always had this tremor, predominantly in the left hand. And but mine gets fairly bad sometimes because I chew these nicotine gums every once in a while. And although it, helps wake me up, helps me keep focused, it does a lot of great benefits, but it makes my hands really shake. And my friend laughed at me at Christmas, and he says, I saw that, but I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe it was a medical issue. No, it's not a medical issue. It's caffeine and nicotine. But I haven't smoked in over 25 years now. And even then, I only smoked for maybe a couple of years when I was in the Navy, which was stupid. But nicotine itself isn't a carcinogen. Nicotine itself doesn't have health effects that other nicotine carcinogens will have, like vaping or snus or smoking and things like that. Chewing tobacco, like the stuff, like the actual tobacco that you put in your lip and then spit. I did that when I was actually I was still in the Navy and sometimes when I had already quit by the time I got offshore, but offshore on the oil rigs. But so in the Navy, sometimes we chew tobacco because you couldn't smoke inside the boat, and I loved that. That was so good. But like my gums down there where I used to keep the chewing tobacco, they're still receded. They never grow back. But and as far as cancer rates from tobaccos are concerned, chewing tobacco, oral tobaccos, is a 50% increase in rates for oral cancers. 50%. That's ridiculous. It's good. I love it and I miss it, but I'm not trading my life for it. No. So anyways, where were we? I think we left off. Married, young family, beautiful wife, handsome little boy. My anxiety's through the roof, and now depression comes to call on top of that. All the while, I started to know I was dealing with this. So I started to I tried to become a bit of an advocate because I knew about depression before. And I even knew people in our family and friends that, have had to deal with this. But it was never really considered, oh, they're sick. It was always considered, no, they're depressed. And so I wanted to become a bit of an advocate as far as this was concerned. And I totally changed my lifestyle. I cut way back on the drinking, sometimes altogether. For a while, I even cut out coffee. I started eating healthy. I started running. I was running marathons. I was healthy. And at the time, I was in the best shape of my life. I had gotten better since then, but at that time, I was in the best shape of my life. And I was doing everything right. But it didn't change anything. And trying to be an advocate for mental health, especially 20 years ago. Like I remember, like I was writing a blog. They didn't have, social media was just about to come out, but I was writing a blog about it sometimes, and even trying to like talk to people in the office about it to tell them what I've been dealing with. And I remember talking to my boss at the time. And this was kind of, not from everybody, but this was almost the mentality of talking to this broker that I had and tried to explain what I'm working with and that I'm still really trying as hard as I can, but this is what I'm up against. And he basically says, if you can't get over it, I'll drive you to the bridge. Literally what he told me to my face. If you can't get over it, I can drive you to the bridge. Implying. And it was at that point I realized I can't get this through to people and help myself and my family at the same time. And that's when I tried to do better for myself and for my family. My son's mom, my wife at the time, God love her, she tried. And she knew that the doctor had me going through all these different medications and different, it worked for a couple of weeks. Now it's, okay, let's try more. If not, then we could try this different medication. But I don't think she fully got it either. And honestly, I hope she never understands. Because for her to understand what I was going through, she would have to go through it. But even this spouse, the whole sickness and health, better or worse, sickness and health, rich or poor, all that, there was still this mentality. It's like, yes, you still got to get up and go to work. Everybody gets sad sometimes. So if this person that is supposed to be this everything of my other half, I couldn't get it through to my boss, couldn't get it through to my wife. What do I do? That's where I was. Then one morning, after a difficult fight one evening, she brings me my coffee, and that was the beginning of the end of that. That was a struggle. It was, but I didn't. Obviously, you don't know what to do. I tried the best I can to figure out what to do, and I slowly but surely started. But I started to mask everything that I was going through and just tried to get by and do what I needed to do every day and work, and tried to still be there for my son when needed. And it got very difficult. However, along comes Facebook. Along comes online dating. Became very prevalent very quickly. And I started to realize online dating was kind of fun because you have this profile out there of this person that you put up for your dating profile, and you go and meet other people. And I started to realize that this profile I have of myself, not that I was being fake or catfishing or anything, but people see this profile they meet me, they talk to me, we go for coffee, go for dinner, whatever. I'm living in that profile. That person sees me as a person that I'm presenting. And that became my persona, not only in online dating, but then also on Facebook. And progressively, as more social media came out, that no matter how bad my life was, I wasn't that person. I was this person on social media. That was the life I was living, even though my real life was this anxious ball of mess. It was. So I took comfort in living that life on social media and getting validation for that life that I was living. And that helped me not to have to necessarily deal with what was going on in the background. Not healthy. Definitely not healthy. And so that was the beginning of that validation side of things. The anxiety was there, the depression was there, the medication from the doctor, every latest medication he saw on CNN advertisements, he tried on me. And I was still trying to be healthy. I started drinking a lot after the divorce. That thankfully didn't continue as much, but for a few years it was very prevalent. But then I did meet another girl, and we started dating. Maybe a little over a year after the divorce, I think we started dating, and we went out, ended up moving in together, and we dated for almost 2 years. And I joke but don't joke that I lost half of everything I had in the divorce. I lost the other half to the girlfriend. Not at the same time. So I dated this girl, and after 2 years, I was trying to live in this relationship in my persona, but I was there. I wasn't always in the background. So that relationship was doomed from the start. And it was, that ended up very badly, and it turned out that she was living her own lives on the side anyways. And so that crushed me. That took whatever I had left of myself was absolutely shattered and gone. I left that condo that night, and everything I owned fit in my car. It was fall. It was cold, and I slept in my car that night, which it turns out I had to get used to anyways. My life got to the point, this was all during the mortgage meltdown, 2007, 2008. And so the real estate market was awful. I had less than no money. And there was points I was working 6 different jobs at a time, and never sleeping more than 2-3 hours at a time, mostly in my car, sometimes at the office. It was tough. It was difficult. But the human spirit has an amazing ability to keep going sometimes until it doesn't. And those years were filled with a lot of living in my persona, medications, and alcohol, binge eating. I lived, after that breakup with the girlfriend, it hit me so hard that, finding out everything afterwards, that she had this sugar daddy in PEI, some big shot lawyer. I just figured she'd like going on vacations by herself. I always wondered who took the pictures of her. But, okay, so I was naive on top of everything else. Fuck. But, so my life was in the tank. But after that relationship ended, I basically became the monster that bit me. And although some might think that I was living a fun life, lots of dating, lots of drinking, a lot of relationships I had no business being in, I had become all those things that had been taking me down. If anxiety and depression and everything, if it was a monster, if it was that shadow, then I basically fell into it, jumped into it head first, and I became that monster. And it turns out the monster, excuse me, when the monster bites you, he's not done with you yet. And it got to the point when you don't realize and you can't see the monster that swallowed you. How do you see the monster that swallows you? And that's where I was. And I remember one day I was vacuuming the floor in an apartment building that I was one of my odd jobs. And I was vacuuming the floor, and I thought to myself, I couldn't remember if I took my medication. And as I kept vacuuming this long hallway, I started to realize, what difference does it make? Because it doesn't do anything anyways. For 7 years, I had been taking these medications, and it did nothing. It did nothing to make my life better. Absolutely nothing. If anything, it numbed the medication numbed the pain of that monster swallowing me. That's all it did. It did absolutely nothing. Maybe even made my marriage worse, because all the side effects that come with those medications, So I don't know. It didn't work for me. And that was the last day that I took medications in that sense. And I dropped them cold turkey. I do not recommend this. Please, please, please don't. If you're on any kind of medications, antidepressants, anxiety medications, things like that, please, please, please do not do what I did. It was the 3 years after dropping those medications were far worse than anything that I took the medications for in the first place. I don't remember how many years ago this was. But I stopped those, and I tried to keep getting by the best I can. Unfortunately, I started self-medicating. Lots of sweets. I still remember the cookies I would buy. Every morning I'd go in and buy a box of cookies before work, and I'd keep those on the seat beside me. Another job I was working, courier job. I would drive through the Tim Hortons. I'd buy a dozen donuts in the morning, and I'd keep those on the seat beside me and eat those dozen donuts in the morning. In the evening, every evening, a bottle of wine and lots of food. So I dropped the official medication and started self-medicating. And over the next 3 years, my weight went up to, I think, 260 pounds. I think I topped out at, that was the heaviest I got. And I was sad. It's the mental anxiety and everything, the effects as far as the medication were concerned had dwindled away. But all the mental health was still there, and self-medicating. And then I realized I have to do better. I have to get my life back on track. And that's when I started to try and really push myself back again. And you want the quick fix. You feel, okay, I'm going to get better. My life's going to be better. I'm going to get myself back on track. And you work hard at it every day, and it doesn't happen. Like that 260 pounds I was carrying, I didn't gain 50 pounds in one day. It took 3 years. So it was going to take time to get back again as well. And it probably did take almost 3 years to get back down again. But I remember I didn't necessarily take my weight as much, but I would measure with a measuring tape around my stomach, love handles area. And every day I'd write down how much it was. And about every week it would go down about 1/4 of an inch. That was how it went. But it didn't keep going 1/4 of an inch down every week. So, it would go down 1/8 of an inch maybe every 3 days, then it would go up. It would go down, then it would go up. It would go down, then it would go up. And it was odd to plot that. The engineer in me just wanted to see that. And it was almost literally those 3 steps. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And it was funny to see that, but the progression was always downwards. So that's where I was as far as getting my life back. But a lot of it was I was still into the social media and validation because I didn't want people to see the life that I was actually living. So I kept everything. I kept just wanting to be that person on social media. I didn't want anybody to see the life that I was actually living. That was I can't remember where in there I started making YouTube videos. It was a few years before that I started making YouTube videos and got into editing and things like that. So that was fun. But I still kept the two separate in that respect. The things got better. Things didn't go away, but things were getting better, and I learned to manage my life, and that got me by. Then came the idea of this show that I was on that ended up starting the chain reaction to where I am now. The other thing that helped me a lot actually was the COVID lockdowns actually. But it was interesting in the sense that the COVID lockdowns kind of pushed me into a system that actually helps. It forced me to I couldn't do anything else. I was stuck in my apartment, and all I could do was eat healthy and work out. Like, I remember there were days I would work out for like 6 hours, but I wouldn't work out for 6 hours. I'd watch some YouTube, and then I'd go do a couple sets of push-ups. I'd watch some more YouTube, have a coffee, and then I'd do some pull-ups. But it was like 5-10 minutes cycles all the time. So that narrowed my focus. Everything that was going on in my life, it didn't matter anymore. This was it. And so it narrowed that focus down just to that. And that was the start of really being able to bring myself forward, even though I still had another 4 or 5 years before I really got out of this mess. Fuck, it's a long road. But so the show came. They didn't necessarily want to cast me on it because, as far as me being a farmer was concerned, was a stretch as far as that show's dynamic. But we made it work. The move to Finland happened, and my validation living life of social media, if let's say that was a shot of whiskey, then the social media attention from that show was heroin. And it was fun. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. But I knew it wasn't me. I knew, even during filming the show, that this reality TV, it's just a show. And I tried to put on a good show for you all. And I wasn't being fake. I wasn't playing a character or a role. It's me, but it was a show. And moving here, that's the first 6 months and the first year. The first 6 months were fun. It was like a super long vacation where I just got a lot of attention, and that was nice. It was exciting, but I slowly had to start to get it through my head that this isn't a show. This isn't social media. This is my life now. I'm here to start a new life. I'm here. And I said the other day, it's like, when I mentioned that, there was a news headline that said once, Roy's moving to Finland to find a wife. And I thought to myself, I'm not moving to Finland to find a wife. I'm moving to Finland to be happy. There's a difference. But so there I am. It's like nearly, from my perspective, my anxiety, my depression, almost gone, almost non-existent, and living this enjoyable, exciting, validation-filled life in Finland. But I knew that there was something different. There was something wrong. I was still living in that shadow of that monster. And like I said, you can't see the monster after it swallowed you. So I didn't know where I was in that respect. And that started to make things difficult. And not just mentally, because when you ignore those things, when you ignore who you're really supposed to be, and you ignore your true self, it's like there's this person in you that's trying to manifest itself. And the more you ignore it, the more it scratches and claws to get out. And it will manifest itself into not only mental, but physical ailments. because it won't be ignored. And that's where things started to get interesting. I could say interesting because it's in the past. But anyways, so another long rambling video. But this coffee's gone cold. I'm going to make some fresh coffee. And yeah, we'll pick it up again. Thank you so much for watching. I know these are a little bit different levels, but I think it's important. It's a long story, but stick with me. I'm going somewhere with this. It's gonna get good. It's not all legal, but it's gonna get interesting. Have a great day, and I honestly appreciate all of you. Cheers.